Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 301. Occultism is the path of the wise. Now, oddly enough, there's a metaphor even within Christianity that comes from the savior of that particular faith, Jesus Christ himself, regarding the path to salvation. That is, the idea is that there's a very wide, easy, well-paved, a road crew didn't maintain it. It's a libertarian road. It's maintained by a private corporation, so it's actually good. Really wide, easy way, and that leads to hell. That leads to wickedness and vileness, depending on the interpretation, literal hell, figurative hell, purgatorial hell, or symbolic hell. But it leads to hell, basically. There's a really winding, rocky, difficult to find path that only a few people actually use, and that's the way to virtue and salvation. That narrow is the way. Few people actually find it. Most people, they're led down that much larger, more obvious path, and they suffer as a result. Again, whether you're talking about temporal, an interpretation of temporal, or permanent suffering, spiritual or physical, that's a different story entirely. Now, it's interesting that that's the fact. Because, of course, Christianity is the world's largest religion. Now, I realize that denominationalists will say, no, because only Catholicism is the real Christianity. No, only the Protestant faith. No, only Mormonism. Getting past that. Even the individual components are all rather large. Abrahamism, if you include loosely, because there is some overlap, although it's a reinterpretation from the early medieval era, if you were to include Islam and Judaism in there and all the other offshoots, it's like half the world's population that believes in at least an overlapping and historically derived moral system. Of course, Christianity springing largely out of Judaism, mixes in some pagan and Romanistic elements. Islam comes along, mixes that with Sabaean paganism, extra Judaism, Muhammad's various rantings when he goes into the cave and huffs fumes, and then Islam is born, and then, you get Mormonism and shit. Mormonism, the space prophecy. Anyway, getting off of that. Occultism is a very, very narrow path. It is difficult because it doesn't require that you simply obey. Obeisance and so forth, that's easy. Most people in the world want to obey. This is why dictators become a thing. This is how you get Hitler or Stalin. Most people want to be led. They've got problems, but they don't have the wherewithal to address them themselves. They want someone else to invent something to make it easier for them, to lead them in the right direction. They don't have command capabilities. 99% of the population of the world are fundamentally robotic lemmings. I hate to tell you this, but most of them are. Now, it's possible for them to be virtuous. It's possible for them to be intelligent. Certainly, most academics are lemmings too. They think that they're wise because they're capable of memorizing things that other people have already said before them. It's really intelligent, really, really wise. But occultism is different. In mainline religion, most mainline religions, not all, you're told to obey. Sometimes you're told strenuously to avoid even contacting other religions. You're told not to talk to other adherents, that's evil, do their practices. For instance, there was a yoga scare among Christians in the United States especially. Actually, it originates in the 18th century. It originates with the rise of groups like the Theosophists. But it comes back in the Satanic Panic and lingers on through the 90s. I can remember it myself. I can remember seeing literature distributed, actually. And this was in tiny, not even small town America, but small village America. You'd still see billeting back during the height of the AIDS crisis sort of era, the early 90s. It would say yoga, it'll cause possession. It would have demonic looking pictures of Kali and stuff like that. I remember it very fondly. It was an interesting time. Magical amulets were a thing even among Christians to ward off the evil eye, by the way, at the time. Tiger's eye, and called witchwood, actually. Interesting. Anyway, mainline religions tell you to obey. The occult tells you not to. It goes in completely the opposite direction. No. The point is to search. Mainline religion typically gives you a book. Occultism gives you a whole library. The thing is this. I'm not putting it up against mainline religion, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, whatever, or any derivation, and saying that it is superior for that reason for all people. That's not what I'm saying, because remember, for 99% of the population, occultism won't be fulfilling for them. It's not capable of giving them what they need. They need something more pre-manufactured because they don't want to sit there and read 2,000 books. They don't want to sit there and think late at night when they're sitting there, they want to pray to Jesus, know that they're going to heaven, and go to sleep. They don't want to sit there wondering about the nature of death or the cosmos because it's boring or because it's frightening. So occultism can't give them anything. Occultism is the path for a very small select group of people. And I'm not saying I'm like superiority complex mode. I'm simply saying there's a group of people who have a different mentality, like the person who is quote-unquote normal. Can't derive enjoyment from the occult, but they can from mainline religion, or even secularity, just the nihilistic version of things and saying, fuck it. The other group cannot derive enjoyment from that, but they can from the occult. Because for them it's more of a search. For them it's more about the question, not about the answer. The occult, being the search for truth, relies upon that sort of question and answer dichotomy, whereas mainline religions pretend that the answers are already there. And of course, in many cases, you get a billion possible questions, especially as things advance over time, or degrade in some cases, I think, as we slip into another intellectual dark age here, with more book burnings and fascism and shit. And people, they have to go to like a religious authority. The occultist may mill about with other occultists talking about these things. They might have some master that they respect, but ultimately is delving into a pile of goddamn books. And it's an attempt to glean truth. As opposed to mainline religions, they believe that truth has already been gleaned. The work's already done. Your job is simply to absorb that passively and obey it. Now that may come with physical effort. You may be called upon to do missionary work, charitable work, killing in the name of some god, depending on the time period and the culture. That's true. But the intellectual effort's not there. You are dissuaded from it. The Catholic Church held people back specifically by preferring the Latin Bible for hundreds and hundreds of years. Of course, the lay people back then in some cases could barely even write their name. By the way, some people talk about illiteracy as though it has to do with verbiage. And so they say, no, the people weren't illiterate. It's just they spoke a different language from the priestly caste. No, speaking and writing are two different things. The ability to codify knowledge and transfer it to another individual non-verbally is a little bit different. That's another interesting field of study. It has nothing to do with the video. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Occultism is the path for people who can't be... maybe you're in a religion. You go to church, you go to the mosque, whatever. But it doesn't quite work for you. Inside, you're more like, hey, I'm not sure I really believe in this. This is sort of how I was as a Christian, too. Somewhere there's that nagging sense of, this isn't right. At least some of what I'm absorbing here is horseshit. Whether it's meant to be as a form of religious propaganda or whether it's just inadvertent. Like, in Islam, Muhammad said that sperm came from the kidneys. Well, he didn't know any better. He got that from the best Greek medicine minds of his age. It was widely believed well on through the medieval era that that was the case. And he just happened to get it from well outside of Arabia at the time. Anyway, you can look into the occult. Likewise, there are people that try to get into the occult, the witchy side of things, and they're not happy about it. Maybe they should just cast around for a mainline religion. Or maybe they should say fuck it and just become a total secularist. Then they can get fat and hypocritical like the Amazing Atheist or Vaush or somebody like that. It's very, very fun to watch the ignominious fall even further. That's about all. Peace out.